This is a difficult day especially for us in Ra'anana, um, with Israel Nathan Rosenfeld, who I understand that the Rosenfelds they daven at Shivte and at KLR. Um, it's lo pashut. It's a reminder that if we needed one, that we're still lo הגענו אל המנוחה ואל הנחלה. It is something that I wrote about in my letter to the community on Thursday. I spoke about on Shabbat in my dasha and with members individually. It's something that comes to remind us of the complexity of life in general and the situation in which we find ourselves. So before I ask Rav Stav to speak, I want to thank Zivi again. Zivi, thank you very much for organizing this talk. This talk was organized during when shul was actually closed, when we were not able to get together in shul, and זה לא היה פשוט, so we had the talk with Yaakov Amidor last week, and now we organized one with Rav Stav. And even though we are out from the one war and able to come back to shul, we thought it's still worthwhile to have this talk. And from the number of people on the call, I see that we're not the only ones who thought so. So it's nice. It's nice to see you all. Unlike last time where I didn't see you for a long time before the Zoom, many of you I saw in shul this Shabbat because I was home. As you can see, I'm back in base now. But I want to thank Rav Stav very much from the bottom of my heart. Just that you know, it took less than a minute for Rav Stav to get back to me from the WhatsApp message if he could speak. And within less of a minute, sure, absolutely. Didn't even ask when, why, and only later. So, and immediately when I gave the date, he said, fine, no problem. And you all know how busy Rav Stav is. Just a few weeks ago, Nechama and I had the privilege to be at Shabbaton with many Tzohar Rabbanim Mechatnim, with one of the wonderful projects of Stav. So you know how busy he is and how many things he does. It was a tremendous Shabbat. And I think on behalf of so many of Am Yisrael, I thank Rav Stav for all the goodness that he does, for all the goodness that he brings to this world, and for everything that he does. And toda rabba. And without further ado, Rav Stav, Pasha. Just before Rav Stav is going to speak about Rav Stav will say will introduce the topic the way he wants to refer to it. So Rav Stav, Pasha.
Shalom. Thank you, Rav Hanan, for the very, very warm introduction. Thank you, Ziv, for allowing me to express a few of my thoughts to my colleagues, to my friends in Ra'anana in Oil Ari congregation. And the truth is that I called Ziv when the war was over, and I asked him, is it still relevant? I mean, should we still discuss issues regarding the war, issues that are affected by the war? And he said, yes, we'll see. And the truth is that none of us in his worst dreams could have thought that today we will hear the terrible news about Israel Tzvi Rosenfeld that was killed in Gaza. And I could just say that if I had any doubt about the need of discussing and sharing a few views about how to refer in a Jewish way to the events that surround us almost on a daily basis, I think this terrible event confirmed that we were right, and Ziv was right in pushing us to give that shiur. The topic officially sounds a very legal one, very halachic one. What are the circumstances that Jewish people are commanded to make a bracha? And when I say bracha, just to clarify, because people might ask, and I want to save that question, when I say to make a bracha, I mean to say Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, what we call Beshem Uvemalchut, to mention the name of God and to mention His kingdom, and to say Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Hatov Hametiv. When do we say this bracha? When do we make this blessing? And under which circumstances are we supposed to do that or to prevent ourselves from doing that? But I want to put this question in a bigger picture, to draw a bigger picture, which is, first of all, our understanding that every event that occurs to us, at least we expect that the Jewish law or the Jewish faith will give us a tool how to express our feelings, how to express our gratitude or our bad feeling, bad emotions, our sorrow about events that occur to us. For us as people of faith, human beings that feel that Jewish life is not just something that they are practicing or is just a custom that we inherited from our parents. Bivchinat mitzvat anashim milumada. We're doing this just because we are copying or we are following what our ancestors were doing. But we really understand that Judaism expresses our way of life and our way of thinking. So if that's the case, how should we feel and how should we express our Jewish feelings when something good occurs to us, when something bad occurs to us, and what happens if they come together, which in many occasions that's the case. It's hard to believe, and I'm saying this as a kind of criticism on ourselves, that we all know the customs of not getting married, not hearing music, not shaving ourselves or not having haircut during the days of Sfirat HaOmer, which are in memory of 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva that were killed actually in the war, and we don't do nothing Jewishly that expresses this terrible event of the Holocaust in halachic and Jewish ways. There is no doubt in my mind that if the big rabbis that we all learn from their Torah, like the Shulchan Aruch and Ramah and others, would be alive today, they would find the way, they would demand us to express halachically and spiritually what occurs to us from outside. And if that's the case, we should ask ourselves, but that's for a different time, why the religious world remains silent when these terrible events occur to us. But this is a different topic. Today, I want to refer to the question, how should we feel and how should we express our feelings in a Jewish way regarding the tremendous victory that occurred to us in the last 2 weeks when we destroyed a part of the nuclear threats, of the nuclear ammunition that the Iranians held in their factories or wherever they held them. By the way, the same question should be asked. What should be the Jewish expression for what occurred to us in October 7th? It's the same side, it's the same issue. If you want and you feel that you need to express something when something good occurs to you, you want to thank Hashem for what he was doing good for you. In the same time, you have to learn to express yourself when something bad occurs to you. So that's the question that we will try to deal with. And the halacha says, we didn't, Ziv was so polite and didn't tell me how long should I speak, but from my experience, I believe that 30 minutes is enough to make the presentation. And if people would want to ask, please feel free. You could chat, you could write, you could raise your hand, and Rav Atlas or Ziv, whoever is in charge on that Zoom, will be able to deliver the question. Anyway, the Gemara says the following. If somebody hears good news, and what does it mean, good news? Rain started to fall on his field. A baby was born. He received a huge gift, a big Yerusha. He inherited a lot of money from somebody. All this are reasons to make bracha, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, Hatov Hametiv. Sometimes the Gemara says you have to make a bracha, Shehecheyanu. The Gemara says, when do you say Shehecheyanu? When do you say Hatov Hametiv? When you are the only benefactor, when you are the only one that has this Yerusha, gets this gift, the rain fell on your field, only on your field, then you make Shehecheyanu. But if you share this benefit, this gift, with your brother, with your wife, with somebody else, so then you make a bracha, Hatov Hametiv. Because it's not only good for you, it's not something that is only for you, it gives a lot of benefit to others as well, and therefore you say Hatov Hametiv. But now I come to the question, to the real question. What kind of good news are considered to be news that will require me to make a bracha? I understand rain fell on my field. I understand a baby was born. I understand I received a big gift. I understand. What about sorry about the example, if I seem to somebody here, if the Yankees in New York won the finals in the football game, and I am a supporter of this group, should I make a bracha, Hatov Hametiv? Or if I'm a supporter of Maccabi Haifa, or Betar Yerushalayim, or another soccer team, or basketball team, should I make a bracha, Hatov Hametiv? What is the quality, or what is the connection between me and the event that occurred that should demand from me to make this bracha? So the Rashba says in one of his tshuvot that it requires that you will have a kind of a direct materialistic connection. If rain falls on your field, you now save money because you don't have to bring water from another place to drink your field, but you can rely on the rain. Or If you have a baby, a new child, it's such a big happiness, such a big joy in the family. That's the reason that you will make a bracha. But if you see somebody that you enjoy to see him, or you see new fruit, or you are told that your friend had a new baby, okay, you are happy with him, but you didn't get directly anything from that. And that, if that's the case, the Rashba says, if that's the case, you do not make a bracha of Hatov Hametiv. But the truth is that the Netziv on the Gemara seems to disagree with the Rashba, and he says that if these are good news for Klal Yisrael, that you are a part of this Klal Yisrael, there is no doubt that if you hear good news that are news for Klal Yisrael and you are a part of that Klal Yisrael, that you could make this bracha. So, for instance, I think there is no doubt that for the Jews that lived in Israel in 1948, or the Jews who lived in 1967, after the war was over, and the danger was taken away, and the enemies were defeated, and the same thing about the nuclear threat that, according to the experts, were the Iranians were so close in a distance of a few weeks to get this nuclear bomb, and maybe to try to destroy us. I think there's no doubt about that. That in such a case, it fits to the definition of the Netziv that says that such a case requires a bracha of Hatov Hametiv. So if that's the case, there is no question that what we should have said once we heard that the threat has been removed or has been destroyed, we should made a bracha Hatov Hametiv. But here is the problem. The question is, could you make a bracha of Hatov Hametiv when you see in front of your eyes so many tragedies? You see 28 people that they were killed from these missiles. You see 7 soldiers that were killed just from the combat engineering unit, and today the 8th one, within a week, within less than a week. Could you make this bracha when you see thousands of families that had to leave their homes, hundreds of injured? Could you express this happiness, this gratitude that you feel to Hashem when you see all this in front of you? And the Gemara says something which is very, very special. It's a very special halacha. And I dare to say that most of us, including myself, never implemented this halacha. And the Shulchan Aruch, based on the Gemara, says the following. What happens if a father of a child passed away and he left after him hundreds of thousands of shkalim, of dollars, Yerusha, for his son that now inherited it for him? On one side, it's a very bad news to hear that your father passed away. So the Shulchan Aruch says, Met Aviv mevarech dayan ha'emet. But if he had money that he inherited, if he doesn't have brothers, mevarech gam ken she'echiyanu. If he has brothers, so they inherited together, bimkom she'echiyanu, mevarech Hatov Hametiv. Now, that's impossible. We never saw such a thing, that a child will make such a bracha. His father passed away, and he will make a bracha. Shechiyanu, or Hatov Hametiv. Could you imagine a father that his son now was killed in Gaza, and since, because his son was dying, he will get kind of support from the national security, so we will make a bracha shechiyanu because his son was killed? I mean, it's impossible. What's going on here? the Piskei Teshuvos, which is one of the very, very Haredi Hasidic poskim, which is very, very sensitive, writes the following. And he says, in the beginning, he says, you know what? Say it betzin'ah, behind closed doors. Because it looks that you do not respect your father if you will make a bracha. Because if somebody will hear you making this bracha, he will say, well, he disgraces his father? He doesn't like his father? What's going on here? And therefore he says, say it silently when nobody hears you. But then he continues and he says the following, ויש אומרים שעקב כך, that because of that, we are not, לא נהגו לברך שהחיינו על ירושה. כי לא ייתכן, because it's impossible that his dad is lying in front of him and he will make שהחיינו. So therefore, don't do that. So it's very courageous to say this. It's very human and it's very sensitive. But then it creates a new question. So we had to come to the Piskei Teshuvos in the second part of the 20th century to understand that you don't make a bracha of Shechianu when your father is dead in front of you. And the rabbis 2,000 years ago did not understand that. What's going on here? And I think that the Shulchan Aruch and the Gemara understood exactly what the Piskei Teshuvos said. And they knew exactly that it's not normal, it's not respectful to make these two brachot. It's impossible. But they wanted to teach us a lesson. They wanted to teach us that when we will have to deal, when we will face events, we will have to distinguish and we will have to navigate our emotions and to see what is bad. And as a result of that, we will make a bracha, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Dayan HaEmet. But in the same time, you'll have to take your powers to make an effort. It's not easy, but to understand that you see also good things that are coming out from that. Of course, that if you will say only Baruch Hatov Hametiv, and you will not realize and you will not pay attention to the pain, to the sorrow, to the bad feelings, you are sinning to the situation, because you have to express the fact that something bad occurred to us as well. And therefore you have to say Baruch Dayan HaEmet. But in the same time, you have to have the courage, the power to get up and to say Baruch Hatov Hametiv. Because when we face situations, they are almost always complicated. There is almost no situation when we get something good and there is not something bitter in addition to that. There are no victories without pain, without loss of children, without injured, without family, that their dreams and that their life will never come back to the same situation where they were before the war. There is no war. The most miraculous war will include also pain of people that had to pay the price of the war. And when we will have to express our Jewish spiritual feelings, we will have to give a place to both feelings. We will have to say, Atov Hametiv, Hashem, we thank you so much for all the goods that you have done to us. We don't want to be like Chizkiyahu the king, that the rabbis tell us in the Gemara that the rabbis wanted to appoint him to be Mashiach. He was supposed to be Mashiach based on the prophecies of Yeshayahu. And the only reason why he did not become Mashiach, because he didn't say Shirah. when the 180,000 soldiers of Sancheriv were killed by the angel of Hashem at that night of Leila Seder, when they were surrounding Yerushalayim. This sin that he never thanked Hashem for that was not forgiven to him. On the other side, we understand, despite our need to express our gratitude to Hashem, we don't want to be kfuyei tova, people that do not realize the good that Hashem is doing to them and do not express their gratitude. On the same time, we do not want to be people that ignore pain of themselves or pain of others. And I want to share with you a small piece of a tshuva that was written a few weeks after the 6-day war. I don't have to tell you the huge victory that Israel had in the 6-day victory, in the 6-day war, when we defeated the Syrians, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, and we entered and we liberated Yerushalayim and the Kotel, etc., etc. I don't have to tell you that. And the feelings, we paid a price. We paid a price of about 690 soldiers that were killed at that war. And the question was how to celebrate the victory, which was no doubt a saving from death to life, because these nations wanted to kill all of us. And Rav Goren and others came with the idea that towards the end of the war, we should make a celebration to thank God. And then Rav Waldenberg writes the following piece. He says, there's no doubt that we have to say Hallel, to express our gratitude to Hashem, to thank Hashem for all the miracles that He has done for us. But then he says the following words, Batorah katuv drachea darchei noam. The ways of Torah are pleasant. And it's not normal. It's not proper. Velav urach ara. It's not derech eretz. It's not done to stand up and to say Hallel when the people that were died be'et she'arugim mutalim lefaneinu, when they are dead in front of us. And these families will cry and will yearn, and we will stand up and celebrate and dance. It's impossible. Uma gam shekol bet Israel. It's not only their own individual tragedy. It's all of us that are sharing this sorrow of this falling, of this getting killed, of these heroes that sacrificed their lives on the sanctity of God and the land, and for the people that are settled in this land. Ve'amarti. I continue, sometimes translate directly, sometimes read it in Hebrew. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the Gemara says that in the miracle of Chanukah, Leshana acheret, only in the second year, Kvaum v'asaum yamin tovim behalel. They decided to establish a day of celebration only a year later. A year later, because in that year, Judah the Maccabite could not establish a celebration when you see all these dead people that are around you. So on one hand, we want to express our gratitude. And we have to say and we have to feel Baruch Ata Hashem Hatov Hametiv. On the other hand, we have to be sensitive to the pain. We have to feel the pain, and therefore to make our bracha in a modest way. Eventually, it's something that people understand the complexity of feelings. And we know that on one hand, we should be happy for all the miracles that occur to us. On the other hand, we know that the war is not over. The threat is not over. And the prices that we pay are still requiring from us a lot of praying, a lot of good deeds, a lot of paying attention to all those who suffer as a result of that war. So that's one level of Hatov Hametiv. I'm afraid that I'm almost over the 30 minutes, and I wanted to give another 2-3 minutes for another aspect of Hatov Hametiv. Rav Hanan, I can? Hello? I'm talking to
Yes.
myself or you?
No. Yes. Please. Definitely 3-4 minutes. Absolutely.
3-4 minutes is fine. Okay. I want to give you to share with you a piece of Meshech Chochmah that I believe is one to my way of life. From my point of view, I think it's the most important. It's the most important Meshech Chochmah that I was exposed in my life. The Meshech Chochmah is written on Parashat Ekev, on the parsha where is the source of Birkat Hamazon, ואכלת ושבעת וברכת את השם אלוקיך. And the question that he does not ask, but I will raise, how come every day if somebody eats bread and he makes Birkat Hamazon, instead of thanking on the bread that Hashem gifted him or gave him, instead of that, he thanks Hashem for the food he feeds the entire world, the entire mankind, all the animals, the entire universe, and he thanks him for the Torah and for the covenant that we have with God, and he thanks him for Jerusalem, and he thanks him for the temple. What's going on here? I just wanted to eat a piece of bread and to say thank you. Why do I have to include in that all the Jewish history since the creation of the world and all the good things that Hashem is doing to us? That's the hidden question that the Meshech Chochmah asks. But what he adds to that question, and that he adds literally, is why did the rabbis add the fourth bracha, Hatov Hametiv? As we all know, we say, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, Ha'el Avinu Malkeinu Adirenu Boreinu Goalenu, Hatov Hametiv, Umetiv v'chen ha'ala. And the question is, why? And the Gemara says, because there was an event after the rebel of Bar Kokhba, where hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed, and the Caesar didn't allow to bury them. And in a certain time, he agreed to bury all the dead people that were killed in Beitar. And because of that, the rabbis established a bracha, Hatov Hametiv. Hatov, shenitnu arugei Beitar likvura, that they were given to be buried, that they were allowed to be buried. Ve'hametiv, that they didn't stink after years of not being buried, in the weather of Israel, and none of them stink. These are the two things. And that's why we say Hatov Hametiv every time we eat bread. And the Meshech Chochmah says, what's going on here? Why did the rabbi, okay, I understand it was a miracle, but why is it important? Why is it so important for the rabbis to mention that event in the Birkat Hamazon, with all the respect to the Roman Caesar, with his mercy and with his decision to allow us to bury? We have to mention this every day when we make Birkat Hamazon? Why? And he says the following, and it's an amazing idea. He says you have to understand, what is Birkat Hamazon? By the way, that's the only bracha which is midoraita. Other brachot are all the Rabbanan except of Birkat HaTorah. But Birkat Torah is Birkat HaMitzvot, and Birkat Hamazon is the only blessing of enjoying, Birkat HaNe'enim, which is the Oraita. And he says you have to understand. When we make Birkat Hamazon, actually we want to say something which is more than thank you. We thank you, Hashem, for giving us food, for feeding us. But we thank you for something which is much bigger. We thank you for being with us from morning to night and from night to morning, 24/7, 365 a year. We thank you for being our partner, for being in covenant with us. And there was a time, says the Meshech Chochmah, and that time was 135, in the middle of the 2nd century, when this Bar Kochva rebelled. 130 years after Jesus was born. And the Christians maintained that God left the Jewish people and is not with them anymore because they did not trust and they did not believe in his Messiah. And then the temple was destroyed. But then still most of the Jews were alive and they were still lived in the territory of Palestine, of Eretz Israel. But after the rebellion of Bar Kochva, where millions of Jews, according to the historians, were killed, and the bloodshed was so hot, was so big, as the Medrash describes, that the height of the blood could make a rider of a horse to make him getting drunk in the blood because it was so deep and so high. The bloodshed that poured from the mountains of Gush Etzion to the Mediterranean. So I guess it's an exaggeration. But the Meshech Chochmah says, you have to understand, what did Jews feel at that time? They felt that God left them. They felt maybe Jesus was right. Maybe the Christians are right. Maybe Hashem left his nation. Maybe we are not anymore the chosen people. And then, a few years later, the Caesar allows them to bury. It's not only a formal permission to bury their civilians or their relatives. It's a sign from God. I'm continuing to be with you. And the rabbis understood that sign and decided to add this to Birkat Hamazon. Birkat Hatov Hametiv is the bless that we make in order to express that we believe that Hashem is continuing to be with us on a daily basis. We will have to confront with challenges and with problems, but still we have to realize that Hashem is good and is doing good to us. And therefore, this bracha is so beloved by us. It's not only a bracha that expresses gratitude. It's a bracha that expresses our faith, our connection, our deep faith that Hashem never left us and will never leave us alone. And even when we have to confront with such problematic and heavy prices and such big challenges, we should always keep in our mind, Hashem Tov U'Metiv. He is good and will do good to us in the future, in the present, in the past, in the future. Okay, so it took me another 7 minutes, but now I could, if there are questions, I could respond. If not, I could say hello.
I see there's a question in the chat. There's one question from Jonathan Goldberg. You can see, if you see it.
Please.
I'll read it. One of the challenges for the current situation is that there appears to be a dispute by the experts about how much the Iranian nuclear threat has been deferred. And presumably, we have not eliminated all of Iran's missiles and rocket launchers. does this make it different? Does this make a difference to the discussion of the bracha?
Thank you for the question. It's a very important question. Not at all, and I want to explain why. The Gemara says, when you make a tov hametiv for something good that occurred to you, it applies only to also to situations where from that good could come out something bad in the future. For instance, you inherited a big Yerusha, but then the income tax authorities will start looking after you. So far, you didn't have fight with them. You didn't have any business with them. They never knew who you are. And now they see you have a big car, you have a big house, you have a big this, okay, this. And you know that they will start looking after you. You still make the bracha. The Gemara says, we care about what happened today and not what about the future ramifications. That's number one. But number two is more important. Number two, I want to tell you, I spoke to people, and I guess each one of them could have the same kind of discussions. We don't understand. There were more than 1,500 flights of our pilots to Iran. 1,500 flights. Not one technical problem, which never occurs to whoever knows how army works. Doesn't exist. We know that pilots have so many technical problems, obstacles that each one of them could cause so many. I don't want to think about hostages that will fall on in Iran. So many challenges, and not one pilot to be hurted, not one Mossad agent to be hurted. It's a miracle we should understand that are measures of biblical miracles, not less than that. We should think in measures of the 180,000 soldiers of Sancheriv that were killed in one night. Now, it's true. I want to remind you that a few years later, it wasn't Sancheriv, it was Nebuchadnezzar that destroyed Jerusalem. I'm not saying that we are establishing now a day for generations, that we should celebrate for generations this day, because, as you said, and the question was very accurate, we don't know yet what's the results of all these attacks. But we know for sure that at least they postponed the threat, at least in a few months, maybe in a few years. I want to share with you. Whoever decided to live in Eretz Israel has to know there are a lot of advantages. But I wanted to share with you one advantage that maybe you didn't think about when you made Aliyah. The biggest advantage here is that you know that you are depending in Hashem. You don't think that it's all about what you do. Eretz asher hinei Hashem Elokecha ba mereshit shana ad acharit shana. We are depending on Hashem on water. We are depending on Hashem on security. We are depending on Hashem on everything. It doesn't mean that we don't have to make efforts, that we don't have to go to war, that we don't have to go to the army. You have to do all this. But eventually, we know that we are depending on Hashem. There is no reasonable explanation to explain us how this army that was doing such brilliant and knows to the exact place where each commander in the Iranian intelligence or air force is located each hour 24/7, and the same army didn't know what's going on under his eyes in Gaza. And an army that could see so deep 2,000 kilometers from here and doesn't see anything 2 miles from him. No explanation, no rational explanation. I mean, there are rational explanations to that. But we have to understand eventually that we are under the eyes of God. It doesn't release nobody from responsibility, don't misunderstand me. But eventually, when we want to make a zoom out and to analyze it from a Jewish perspective, There's only one, the only reasonable, rational explanation here, that somebody made us blind 2 years ago, and somebody opened our eyes and helped us so much this year.
Thank you very much, Afsam, for the optimistic note that you ended with, um, because you portrayed the complexity of the situation so masterfully, but yet you ended on a optimistic note, knowing that Hashem is with us despite everything and regardless of everything. And that yes, indeed, this was a great moment in the life of in our lives as a nation. I see there are no more questions in the
Thank
chat.
you so much.
And thank you, Toda Rabba. Thank you, everyone who's online. It was really nice to see you. And Bezat Hashem, I'll be home this Shabbat as well. And we'll see you. We'll see you too. And thank you very much, Yossi Pugach, for helping so much again with the Zoom and throughout always when we have the Zoom. Toda Rabba. Thank you very much. Laila Tov.